Hey guys, it's Simeon. This is Pro Wrestling Unlimited, as it is April 15th, 2021, and WWE is at it again. I mean, do you guys remember April 15th, 2020? 1 year ago to the day, WWE, and I'm going to pull up the list here before we talk about what happened today. I'm going to pull up the list from last year. WWE released technically over 24 wrestlers between the main roster and NXT, and that's something we need to talk about here in a moment as well. But let's pull up this list of who was released in 2020. So as we look here, as far as everybody released in that mass release last year, trying to pull up the list. So as far as who was released last year by WWE, and then we'll get into this year, was Kurt Hawkins, and he landed in Impact Wrestling. EC3 did a little bit in Impact Wrestling and is now signed with Ring of Honor. Lio Rush, been doing a lot for Game Changer Wrestling. He's been doing stuff with New Japan Strong, their U.S. brand and stuff, so he's been doing really well for himself. Gallows and Anderson, I mean, they did their own pay-per-views. They're signed to Impact. They work AEW every week. Eric Young became a world champion in Impact Wrestling. Heath Slater signed with Impact, but unfortunately has been out with an injury since I want to say October. Aiden English was released last year. Other than his Twitch, haven't seen him do much. Kurt Angle was released last year. Started himself a podcast with Conrad Thompson. Eric Redbeard was released last year. Seen him do some stuff with... He appeared on the AEW Brody Lee special. And he's also worked for United Wrestling Network as well. The Colognes were released. Sarah Logan was released. Mike and Maria were released and just announced today that they have signed full-time with Ring of Honor. Zack Ryder was released. We've seen him pop up in AEW and Impact. Not looking to sign with anybody, he said. No Way Jose was released. Rusev was released, now known as Miro, signed with AEW. Deonna Purrazzo, maybe the most successful, maybe the most or second most successful of all these releases, as she has gone to Impact and become their head of the women's division and the what's it called? Knockouts champion. Serena Deeb was released. Tainara Conti, who's now signed with AEW and pushed to the top there. I mean, she's getting a title shot next week. Cassius Ohno and Curtis Axel. Looking at the listing, if there's anybody else that was released in that large release from last year. And there's a bunch of other names that we don't have on this list that came from NXT and people from the Performance Center that we've never seen on TV before. But then people start talking about it this morning. It's been 1 year, the 1 year anniversary of when WWE did their mass releases last year. And some of these people that were released last year actually talked about it, like Tainara Conti. She posted a video on YouTube talking about how it's been a year. She went through all the emotions, sad, angry, upset, frustrated. But now 1 year later, she wakes up, looks in the mirror and knows maybe that was all worth it. Deonna Purrazzo talked about the most fulfilling year of her life. Carl Anderson posted, just basically retweeted a screenshot of when the announcement was made by WWE that he was released, and along with others. And he hashtagged it with divine intervention. Maria Kanellis retweeted that one and said, definitely. Lio Rush talked about this. Doc Gallo said, what a great year for you boys to get hotter. So we've seen some of these people, I guess you could say, take the release and run with it. We've seen others not do really anything. And then today happens. At roughly, and I want to get the right time here, at roughly 11:07 a.m. Pacific, which would be 11, 12, 1, 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. Eastern time, WWE sends out a tweet that just says, and I'm going to pull it up on the screen here, actually. I want to pull this up on the screen. We're going to go through this all. It says, WWE has come to the terms on the release of Billie Kay and Mickie James. We wish Billie Kay and Mickie James all the best in their future endeavors. And I go, what? Where did this come from? Billie Kay and Mickie James? But then when you click into it and you go to WWE's website, there's more to it. It's Billie Kay, Mickie James, Chelsea Green, Tucker, Kalisto, Wesley Blake. And that wasn't just it. So then we go back to let me switch here. We go back to Twitter. And WWE then sends out this tweet that states, WWE has come to the terms on the release of Samoa Joe, Chelsea Green, Tucker, Kalisto, Bo Dallas, and Wesley Blake. Then WWE sends out this tweet. WWE has come to the terms on the release of Peyton Royce. We wish her the best in all of her future endeavors. And it's like, what is going on here? WWE. Why? And apparently this has to do with budget cuts. That is what WWE is telling people. WWE, John Laurinaitis, Johnny Ace, whatever you want to call him, is calling people up saying, hey, unfortunately, we've had to release you. It's due to budget cuts. Same bullshit they said last year. Yet WWE is making more money now than they ever have. Ever. They are making more money now than they were a year ago when they made all those releases. They're making more money now, hand over fist. And it's just mind-boggling. Especially some of these names, like Chelsea Green. So they bring Chelsea Green up to the main roster right before Survivor Series last year. And then she gets hurt. So, of course, she's got to go away. And we heard that she had just gotten cleared right around the Rumble, or maybe right after, sometime late January, early February. She was cleared to go. Good to go. And we see that she was at SmackDown 3 weeks ago, maybe a month ago now, backstage at SmackDown. But WWE can't find anything for her, even though they already had a plan for her in place back in October. And then today, all of a sudden, she gone. Very weird. Not sure what came of that one. But then another one that boggles me, and we'll talk about Samoa Joe in a moment. Wesley Blake. Do you guys remember when the Forgotten Sons came up to the main roster? Remember when the Forgotten Sons came to SmackDown? It was Wesley Blake, Steve Cutler, and Jackson Riker. And then they disappeared. And we found out that they disappeared because, Jackson Riker made some mistakes and said some insensitive things on Twitter. So we're going to push them off TV for a little bit and let people forget about them and all this Jackson Riker stuff. Well, who's the only one still left in the fucking company now? Jackson Riker with Elias, who was in a WrestleMania storyline with Shane McMahon. You've got Steve Cutler released because he went to, I guess you could say, at least from what we have heard, he went to a New Year's party and got COVID, so they released him. And now Wesley Blake has been released. Man, just announced he's having another baby. But out of those three guys, it is baffling. And I'm sorry for laughing, but it is baffling that the one guy still employed by the company and being used on an almost regular basis is fucking Jackson Riker, the guy that got them pulled from TV a year ago. Very weird. Very, 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 very weird. But then as I look at all these names, you've got other names. Tucker. They weren't doing anything with him. Tucker actually even sent out a tweet earlier, and I'm going to pull his tweet up. Tucker seems kind of happy that he was released by the WWE, which is weird, but Tucker over here, let's see. Why can't I find Tucker's tweet? Here we go. So Tucker 2 hours ago tweeting this. Freedom, baby. Freedom, baby. And it's like, interesting. He then sent out another tweet right after that. We'll pull it up right here. Looking forward to telling my story. And of course, you got the websites jumping on there. We'd love to interview you, get you as a guest, discuss all this, blah, 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 blah. But Tucker out here talking about being released. Mickey James sent out this tweet. Grateful for the memories. Grateful for the locker room. Grateful for the fans. Grateful for these little keys to my golden handcuffs. You could never expect other visions of you to be big as your own dreams. Thank you, at Vince McMahon. Hashtag blessed and grateful. Again, Lucha Libre Online jumping in there, trying to get some interviews going. I mean, kudos to them for hustling. But it's just crazy. And then we got to talk about it. If I can get this to go. Mojo. Samoa Joe. Ooh, Joe has sent out another tweet since I've looked. Okay. Nothing really. So Samoa Joe, released from WWE, works WrestleMania doing commentary. We hear over the weekend there's going to be some shifts on commentary. Tom Phillips out as lead on Raw. We're getting added on Vernk, some guy that's not done much commentary before. He will be flanked by Byron Saxton staying on Raw and Corey Graves coming over from SmackDown. Then WWE states nothing of Joe going to SmackDown and joining Michael Cole, which wouldn't have been a bad team. They just state Samoa Joe will remain on the talent roster. Let me rephrase this. Samoa Joe will remain on the talent roster. For what? 3 days? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Thursday, you gone. Johnny Ace calling you saying, yeah, we said we'd keep you on the talent roster. We didn't say how long. 3 days, boom, you out of here. But Samoa Joe kind of not been quiet on social media. As we look here, Joe's Twitter. So, CM Punk tweeted this. It just says, .Joe. Joe then responds, they really should have never gave me money. Not sure 100% what that means. But then Punk retweets or responds here again and says, fucked up and paid us. So I don't know exactly what that means. Joe then sent out this tweet about an hour ago. It just says, be well. And it's Jim Carrey. I believe that's Jim Carrey. That one. But I don't know what WWE was thinking. And here's the other thing we also have to remember. Well, last year, WWE made all these releases, said all these different names regarding who on the main roster had been released, but didn't mention the NXT names in any press release or website post. So, yes, we've got 9 WWE superstars from the main roster that have so far been released, but there's got to be more. There's a good chance that there is more. Because, again, they're not going to make public who from NXT and maybe even who from NXT UK or who has been training at the PC that has now been let go. But it's a shame. And WWE saying budget cuts when they're fucking making more money than ever. Here's the thing. They're getting money from the USA Network, which is NBC Universal. They're getting money from Peacock, which is also NBC Universal. They're getting millions from fucking Fox. I've heard that they've got other sorts of, not TV deals, but content licensing agreements possibly in the works as well. That's more money that can be coming into the company for them as far as content does go. And it's just like, you're not doing house shows anymore. So you're not paying to have everybody on the road 5 days a week. You're not paying to run those house shows that were actually being ran 80% of the time at a loss, because WWE, they go, they rent out the building, they set up the building, they pay the talent to be at that building, they pay local people for the catering and this and that, and then everything that goes into it, and then they draw like 2,000 people. And most of the time, especially over the last couple of years before COVID, house shows were being ran at a loss. They felt that was something that needed to be done. Yet in early 2020, we heard that they were going to scale house shows back. And so now you're saving money off of not running house shows. You're also technically saving money off not having to run those house shows in conjunction with television at the same time and having to pay your crews to be taken down and putting up your sets every single week. Now you go into a place for 3-4 months, set it up once, bada bing, bada boom. It's easier on them. But for them to say, oh, we've released 9 more people today because of budget cuts. Call people and say, you've been released. It's nothing you did. It's budget cuts. And it's just mind-boggling, baffling, crazy to think. And there could be more. We don't know who, but there could be more. I mean, and I don't even want to speculate, but it's like you look at the roster and you could maybe try to say, well, it might be this guy, or it might be this girl, or it may be this guy. But who knows? Because I wasn't expecting Chelsea Green. I heard that was somebody that Vince really wanted to put some time into. But we heard that last year too with Gallows and Anderson. AJ went to Vince and was like, well, what's going on? Oh, they'll be fine. And then they're released. It's like, who made these decisions? Yeah, ultimately it's going to come down to Vince, but who was pitching? We don't need him anymore. Let's release Bo Dallas. We don't need Wesley Blake anymore. Let's release Wesley Blake. Like, we know with like Gallows and Anderson, apparently Heyman got in the ear of Vince and said, you're paying these guys too much for what they're worth. And it's just like, what? But as of 11 o'clock, well, as of technically when the last tweet was sent by WWE, we'll recap this really fast before we wrap things up. As of, and they got a lot of NXT UK tweets up right now, but as of 11:48 a.m. Pacific time, 2:48 Eastern, WWE has come to the terms on the release of Billie Kay, Mickie James, Chelsea Green, Tucker, Kalisto, Wesley Blake, Samoa Joe, Peyton Royce, and Bo Dallas. And now the question is, who pops up on like a GCW show? Who goes to Impact? Who goes to AEW? Now, I know I've been the guy in the past that says, oh, AEW just picks up all WWE scraps. They pick up everybody that WWE didn't want to use anymore. But to be 100% completely honest, there are 2 names here that I would like to actually see go to AEW, and that is Samoa Joe and Chelsea Green. I feel like Samoa Joe got to do great things in WWE, but I felt like he could have done more. And Samoa Joe is still only, he's 42 years old, which is still technically not old when you look at a lot of the guys that are still wrestling today. But Samoa Joe is somebody that I can see going to AEW and not only to be a great asset just on television and in doing matches and whatnot, but as somebody that can do it all, that can help the younger guys. That if you need somebody to jump on commentary, boom, you've got Samoa Joe. Because he's got a year's worth of experience now on commentary with WWE. You go in there and use him. Maybe you don't use him as a top title contender, but you use him to help get other people over. Samoa Joe's going to go in there, and even with guys that are really unexperienced, as we've seen in the past, go in there and have great matches. But then, the one that I would love to see out of all these that get picked up by an AEW would be Chelsea Green. Yeah, she can go back to Impact as Laurel Van Ness and do whatever over there. But I think Chelsea Green going to AEW would be phenomenal because we know how good she is. We know how great she is. But WWE never let her be that. WWE never let her shine the way she could have shown. Plus, AEW needs more great experienced wrestlers. And they're not to be rude to anybody else. May not be anybody on the free agent market right now in the women's division with as much experience and as good as Chelsea Green is. But again, just to recap, 9 names were released today by WWE. Billie Kay, Mickie James, Chelsea Green, Tucker, Kalisto, Wesley Blake, Samoa Joe, Peyton Royce, and Bo Dallas. Just looking here really fast. Chat's going nuts. You guys are going crazy over this, you know. I see a lot of Iconics need to get back together. Peyton and Chelsea. Or not Peyton, Chelsea. Peyton and Billy need to get back together. But it's just unfortunate that all of these wrestlers are released on the 1-year anniversary of the mass releases from last year. That's the other thing that's so mind-boggling. Not, it's just after WrestleMania releases, the week of WrestleMania, 2 weeks after WrestleMania. It is the exact 1-year anniversary. And Matt Cardona, I want to show you his tweet. Kind of summed this up in a nutshell with a tweet that he sent out, if I can find it. He already promoting Chelsea Green T-shirts, the hot mess, Pro Wrestling Tees. So, I can pull this tweet up here. Someone Sappa Fightful tweeted, pretty tone deaf to do this on the same day 1 year later. Cardona would reply, WWE 415 just says, I just fired your ass. That's probably the tweet of the day. That's probably the tweet out of all of this. WWE 415 says, I just fired your ass. But with that, we will continue to follow this story. We will continue to figure out exactly what's going on. I do want to thank Canton P, however I say that, in the chat for the super chat donation, states, doesn't WWE usually make cuts after WrestleMania yearly? Kind of. But the thing that is just getting to everybody is that this was done on the exact 1 year anniversary of when the releases were done last year. That's the thing. It's like, is April 15th now you might be fired day in WWE? You may be getting cut. You may be released. Is that the new thing in WWE? You got to be scared on 415. Just looking through the chat. And I'm not going to read any of these of, they don't do anything with X wrestler. Why is he still employed? X hasn't been wrestling in a while. X doesn't do this. Why ain't X released? No, I'm not going to read any of those in the chat because we're not wanting anybody to, in a perfect situation here. Nobody gets released, and everybody either just still sits in the back and gets their paycheck, or they eventually get used on television. I mean, you look at AEW. Not to use them as an example here, but they've got 75 people on their roster, plus the other 20, 30 people they bring in every week, doing however many, 9 matches on Dynamite, 15 matches, 20 matches or whatever between Elevation and Dark. So it's like, they're not releasing people. They're not making as much money as WWE, but then WWE's out here saying, oh, we can't afford you anymore. You've been cut. But I don't know. I really don't know what to say. And I see that there might have been more super chats, but unfortunately, for some reason, it's not showing them to me. Let me see something really fast. So if you did send a super chat and I didn't get to it, just for some reason, it's not showing. I know I saw more than one pop, but now for some reason, I only see the one. I do apologize for that. But it's just unfortunate that 9 more wrestlers, and let's do one last check on WWE just to see, since we've been live, if anybody else was released. I don't believe so. Negative. So it's just the 9 for now, plus the possible anybody else that has been released out of NXT, which we don't know yet, and anybody that's been released as far as like Performance Center trainees. But if you do hear anything else going forward, as far as people being released from WWE, who, when, what, where, circumstances, their story, WWE side of things, if we ever hear any of that, we will have it for you right here on the PW Unlimited YouTube channel. And also remember to keep track of on our website, pwunlimited.co, because sometimes if something's really big, we'll try to get it out on YouTube. But if it's like, oh, fuck, we don't have time to get it on YouTube, I throw it up on the website first. Jack Dawson, thank you for the super sticker donation. Really do appreciate that, bud. But again, it's dark day. 415 has now become the dark day in WWE over the last 2 years. And we'll see if anybody else gets released. I from the bottom of my heart, hope not. I hope nobody else in WWE does get released. The Genius, no, I literally do not see him. Ain't scamming nobody. But with that, thank you guys so much for joining me here. If we do hear anything else again, well, if you hear anything else, we'll let you guys know. Have a great rest of your Thursday. We will be back live right here tomorrow night to talk about SmackDown. Have a great rest of your week.